All right, so today we're going to deconstruct something pretty fascinating. It's basically a masterclass in financial persuasion. We've got this document, and it's all built around one single, kind of controversial guy named Doug Casey. Our whole goal here is to figure out exactly how it weaves this powerful story to sell a really radical investment philosophy. So right out of the gate, the document hits you with this really powerful quote. And check it out. It's from a major publisher, Simon & Schuster. This isn't just some random opinion, right? It's a very carefully chosen endorsement from a third party. The whole point is to build up this massive credibility before you even get to the first argument. It's the hook, plain and simple.
And this is how they build that credibility. The document lays out this whole timeline of what it claims are Casey's biggest, most accurate predictions. You've got the dot-com bubble, the 2008 collapse, and get this, even a super specific, kind of chilling warning just 2 months before 9/11. By just stacking up all these impressive hits, the story really starts to frame him as some kind of financial prophet.
Okay, so now that they've established this amazing track record, the narrative makes a little pivot. It shifts from what he predicted to who this guy actually is. And the document doesn't paint him as your typical mainstream analyst. No, they introduce him as a contrarian, a radical thinker. And this is where the whole story gets really, really interesting. The document starts strategically dropping in Casey's most controversial views. We're talking abolish the government, calling democracy mob rule. It even makes a point to highlight that he refused to shake Dick Cheney's hand. Now, this isn't just random biographical info, right? It's a very deliberate tactic. They want to position him as this radical outsider, totally against the establishment. The message they're trying to send is pretty clear. This is a guy who thinks for himself. So you have to ask, if he's not some kind of prophet, how does he do it? Well, the document argues it's not magic. His predictions apparently come from a very specific methodology. It claims there are actual rules to what it calls rational speculation. And this right here, this is the core concept, political distortion. The entire philosophy really hinges on this one single idea. The idea is that governments, through their laws, their regulations, just their general instability, are the main reason markets get out of whack. And for a speculator, well, those imbalances, they spell opportunity. So the next logical question is, how do you actually find these so-called distortions? Well, the document lays out a pretty simple 3-step process. Step 1 is to find a crisis. Step 2, you connect with the local insiders. And then step 3, you vet the whole opportunity with a very specific filter. Let's break each one down. Now, this first rule, it's probably the most counterintuitive one. Instead of looking for stability, the philosophy here is to actually actively seek out a crisis. Yeah, like a war, an uprising, or some major economic chaos. And the logic is actually pretty simple. A crisis creates bargains that you just won't find in stable markets. And just to prove this isn't all just theory, the document gives us some visual evidence. Here we see Casey, apparently on the ground in Iraq, a clear crisis zone, and he's supposedly investigating oil deposits. This image is totally designed to scream boots on the ground, right? It's showing that he goes directly to where the trouble is. And yeah, this next picture just reinforces that whole boots on the ground persona. Here he is at the entrance to a mine. The document is using these photos to paint a very, very specific picture of him, a hands-on investigator who's not just sitting around reading reports. Nope, he goes directly to the source, no matter how remote or unstable it might be. Okay, rule number 2 is all about gathering intelligence. Once you're in that crisis zone, the document says the real key is to build a local network. And it's specific about it, too. It says to target attorneys and accountants. So why them? Well, because they're the ones who see everything first. The deals, the bankruptcies, the way money is moving around. They're the centers of influence who know about opportunities that outsiders would never, ever hear about. And finally, once you find an opportunity in all that chaos, rule number 3 is to apply a filter. The document introduces this as the 8 Ps. It's supposed to be this systematic checklist designed to vet any potential speculation and, at least according to them, dramatically increase your odds of a massive payoff. And here they are. You've got people, property, financing, yeah, spelled with a P for some reason, paper, promotion, push, price, and politics. Now, what's really interesting is that the document doesn't actually explain what any of these mean. It's just presented as this comprehensive, almost proprietary analytical tool. And by leaving it undefined, it kind of adds to the mystique, It suggests this is secret knowledge you can only get if you subscribe.
All right, so after they've established the man and the method, the document makes its big move. It pivots away from the past and looks to the future, finally unveiling the next major premonition that this has all been leading up to, a coming economic collapse in the U.S. that it calls the Greater Depression.
But listen, a claim that big, it needs some evidence, right? So let's take a look at the proof. What data does this source material actually present to back up this prediction of a coming crisis? Let's dive into the charts they use.
So the first piece of evidence they point to is the housing market. The document uses this chart of the U.S. National Home Price Index to make its case. It argues that prices fell about 30% from that 2006 peak, and then they just flatlined. The takeaway they want you to have is pretty clear. A core pillar of American household wealth is totally broken, and it's not recovering.
Next up, they point to government dependency. This chart is used to show a pretty dramatic rise in the percentage of the population on food stamps. I mean, it climbs from just 8% to nearly 20% in about a decade. This is presented as clear, unambiguous proof of widespread economic distress that's only getting worse. After that, it goes after the official employment numbers. The document argues that, while the headline unemployment rate has doubled, the real story is the fall in the employment to population ratio. And that's a really key distinction because that ratio includes people who've just given up and stopped looking for work. The narrative uses this to suggest that the job market is actually way weaker than the government is telling us. And here it is. This is supposed to be the knockout punch of their evidence section. This chart of the U.S. federal deficit. It's totally designed to shock you. By showing this massive plunge to a level that they claim is even worse than during the World Wars, it frames the whole situation as completely unsustainable. This is what they present as the final, undeniable proof that a collapse isn't just possible, it's mathematically inevitable. So at this point, the case has been made, right? You have a prophet with a proven method who sees a massive crisis on the horizon. And now the document reveals its ultimate purpose. It's not just a warning, folks. It's a sales pitch. The crisis isn't something you should be afraid of. It's something you can profit from. So really, the crucial point is this. The document sets up a very clear choice for you. On one hand, you can be part of the herd. You can follow the crowd, and when the crisis hits, you get wiped out. Or you can be the speculator. You can go against the crowd, find the opportunities hiding inside the crisis, and get rich. That right there, that's the core promise.
So how do you actually become this speculator? Well, this is the final step. This is the call to action. This entire elaborate narrative that we've just walked through, the prophet, the method, the premonition, it's all been one giant funnel. It was all constructed to lead you to this one single conclusion. You have to buy subscriptions to his newsletters to get the exclusive research.
And when you boil it all down, the entire argument of this document really comes down to this one provocative question. It's making the case that the actions of governments are the single biggest force shaping markets, creating these distortions that can be exploited for huge gains. Now, whether that's a true key to wealth or just a really compelling sales narrative, well, that's the question it leaves you with.